We previously learnt about creating Windows Virtual Machine in Azure. In today's video, we will look into how we can create a Linux virtual machine in Azure. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Cloud Tech Services. Let's get started with today's video. The process of creating a Linux virtual machine is similar to creating a Windows virtual machine. To start with the process, we need to first open the Azure portal with an active subscription. As you can see, I am already on my Azure portal, which has an active subscription known as the Azure Test subscription. On the Azure portal, we will go ahead and create the Linux virtual machine. So there are two ways to create the Linux virtual machine. The first one is to directly click on virtual machines like we do for Windows and then click it. But today we won't do that. So let's check the second method, which is click on create a resource. Under here you will find many options. So under categories, click on compute. So on the right hand side, you will find that there are many services which are listed under the popular Azure services, one of which is the Ubuntu server. So today for the Linux virtual machine, we will go ahead and create the Ubuntu server. To create the Ubuntu server, I click on create. So now this page for creating a virtual machine has loaded. And as you can see, the subscription is already selected here. We will select the resource group. So I will not select an existing resource group, but I will create a new resource group called as the Linux RG, that is the Linux resource group. And I'll click on OK. For the virtual machine name, I'll keep it short and simple with Linux VM. And then I'll leave the region to Central India. We will not select any availability zones as of now. And since we went into the categories section and directly clicked on the operating system to start with, the image is already selected as Ubuntu Server 22.04 LTS and it's Gen 2. I'll leave the VM architecture as is, that is 64 bits, and then I will leave the size also as is. You can go ahead and change the size as you like, but I'll leave it to default. Now when coming to authentication type, Azure basically gives two provisions as to how we want to access our Linux virtual machine. The first one is using an SSH public key and the second one is using a password. So just to keep everything simple and straightforward, I'll just go ahead and select password. So this is kind of similar to, like, this step is kind of similar to the one that we used to do for the Windows virtual machine, where we select the username and password for the device. So I will just give it as Linux admin as the username, and I will give a password here. And since you cannot I'm not going to see my password here, so I need to remember that. Yeah. And now for if you want to access the virtual machine, you need to specify the inbound ports on which you want to access. So by default, Azure does not provide the RDP port that it gives for the Windows virtual machine. So for Linux, you have three options. The first one is SSH, for which you will get the inbound port 22, and then you have the HTTP and the HTTPS. So we will go with the SSH and then we will click on disk. Now here by default the OS disk size has a 30 GB image. Since we are not going to perform any other activities on the Linux machine as of now, I will leave the OS disk size as default. If required, I will add a different, or I will add a new disk to this virtual machine as and when required. So everything on this page is as default, and we will go to the next one, that is networking. So here we have a new virtual network. Under networking, we have a different subnet, we have a new public IP, and yes, it needs to have a public IP. And then we will select on delete the public IP and NIC when the VM is deleted. So this option, like selecting this option, makes the management of the resources a bit easier for your lab environment, not necessarily for the production. And then I will go ahead and click on management. So here also there is not much changes that I would like to do. I will just change the time zone to the one that I am in, that is the Chennai Kolkata time zone, and I leave the email as it is. So all the shutdown notifications for this machine will come into this particular email, and then the patching or orchestration is for the image default. So if the image right now has received some patches, then it will take, like patches as in the updates, then it will take it, otherwise it won't. And then we'll move to the next one, that is monitoring. Here also we'll just enable the boot diagnostics and nothing else. Moving to advanced, we are not going to change anything here. Then tags, we are not going to include any tags. And now simply review and create. So upon hitting the review and create button, as it does for the Windows machine, it will run some final validations for the Linux machine as well, and then it will give us the option to hit on create, and it will start the creation process of the virtual machine. So just verify everything one last time. So because of the configurations, we are going to have like the monthly hourly cost would be 10 rupees for every hour, and then we have the subscriptions and disk and everything here. So just let's go and click on create. So now the deployment has been submitted and the deployment is in progress. So we will wait for our Linux machine to get deployed, and once the deployment is complete, then we'll log into the Linux machine and see how it looks. So now you can see that our deployment is complete. So let's click on go to resource. So here you can see the overview of the Linux machine that we just created. So this is the public IP that has been received by the Linux machine. And under networking, if we look into, we will find that the SSH port is open. So it is allowed from like any source to any destination on the TCP protocol for the inbound connections. So now let's see how we can connect to this Ubuntu server. So to connect to the Ubuntu server, I have an application installed on my system that is called as Putty. So this is the application right here. So here we can use various protocols to connect to the server. So since we have enabled the SSH protocol on the port 22, so we will use it. So I will copy this IP address from here, the public IP address, and I'll paste it here, and I'll just click on open. So this will open us a Putty session which is trying to make a connectivity using the SSH port between the Linux virtual machine and my system. So I will just give the username that I used here, and I'll click on enter, and now it's asking me for the password. So I'll just give the password right here. And in Linux, if you're familiar with the process, then you will understand that you cannot see the password that is being typed here. So yeah, so now you can see that we have got access to our Linux virtual machine. So I'll just go ahead and quickly check the version of operating system installed on the machine. So to check the version of Linux operating system installed on the system, we need to type lsb underscore release, give a space and then give -a. So this shows us Ubuntu machine is the operating system installed on the machine is the same that we selected, that is Ubuntu 22.04 LTS. So in the similar way, you can go ahead and start with your initial introduction to the Linux virtual machine, create your virtual machines in the environment, and then you're good to go to use it. For more such content, please subscribe to my channel Cloud Tech Services, and do like and share the video and leave behind your comments as to what you want in your next videos. Thank you for watching.